here with me. Say I am the fool, I should never let you go away. Call me what you will, but honey, don't you ever stray. And if the sun comes up and there's air to breathe, but still.
What do you actually remember from the holidays last year? Do you remember anything from the holidays last year? You don't, do you?
It was like a blur.
Yeah.
Oh, they're trying to bring you water. I think that it was a blur to me. I really felt like that it was something that kind of, I know that Christmas came, I know my birthday came, and I know that those things happened, but now I'm like, okay, they happened, but now here it is a year later, and I'm trying to think back to it, and it's almost like you're asking me, do I remember? And it's like, okay, I'm not sure that I do.
And the reality is you don't. I'll say this. For me, when my mom passed, here's what I remember from when my mom passed. I remember us going to Arkansas. I remember, did we go to Arkansas? We didn't go to Arkansas because we had the concert. So we couldn't go to Arkansas. They came to us. Mm-hmm. Okay, I do. Okay, see, that shows you how much I remember. I don't remember anything. And I don't, and my point of even bringing that up is I don't know if you can or even if you're supposed to. When that first initial wave, like I have friends right now, I have one friend who's just going through, she lost one of her best friends. She lost, I think, her niece. I have another friend who lost her her daughter. Another friend who lost a daughter. I don't know if you're supposed to remember. I don't know if that's ever the goal of the first year of getting through holidays without that one loved one. I think the goal is survival. Like, you're trying to find a way to keep going. Like, I remember Christmas last year. You don't remember, but I remember it. Okay. And I remember you spent it in the bed. Oh. Yeah, you spent it in the bed, which was fine. I had no issue with that whatsoever because I knew you were going to spend it in the bed. I knew you were going to be, hopefully, and what's going on? Hopefully, you ain't got to do that on camera. We're having some technical difficulties over here right now, but we're gonna get through it.
Oh my gosh!
All right. What is wrong with you? You gotta have a poker face, man.
I'm trying.
Poker face.
Okay.
Put your poker face on.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you made me forget what I was gonna say.
You said you remember me being.
No, I remember you being in the bed, and I knew you would be because listen, man, losing somebody that you love is a gut punch. I mean, it is an absolute 1,000% total and complete gut punch. And you don't know how to react to it initially because it happens a lot of times so suddenly. And it's just like 1 minute you're in this world and then the next minute your whole world changed. So it disorients you for a second because you don't know where you are for a moment. Like you're trying to find your bearings and you're saying, okay, what is this new reality that I'm existing in? Like, what is, what am I supposed to do? What do I do with the traditions? What do I do with we have another friend who lost their mom just a couple of months ago, and they're dealing with that new reality. And like, I think they had Thanksgiving to get dinner as a family, but not even on Thanksgiving. It was like days before Thanksgiving. And they did so because of this new reality that they now exist in. And they're trying to say, okay, well, what do we do with this? What are we supposed to do with this? And so it's not easy. And so tell me what your thoughts to all of this has been, this challenge that you're even experiencing to this day as you go into year 2.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that I guess I think about back over my life and I realize that we've taught many of marriage classes and many of marriage workshops and everything marriage when in the church, and I don't remember anybody teaching on anything. I don't remember anybody teaching anything on the loss of a parent. I saw it happening. I just didn't see anybody teaching on how to help as a married couple, how to help your spouse that has lost a parent. And I think it's so overlooked because I feel like that it can also be a detriment to your marriage where your marriage can fall apart and they don't even know how it fell apart because of the not being educated, if you will, of the importance of how to function as a married couple when one of you have lost a parent. Right. In our marriage, when you lost your mom, I feel like I almost lost my husband. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that may not, that I might not have had to go through that had there been, someone or whatever saying, hey, your husband's gonna feel this way. He's gonna be this way, but be encouraged, stay close, pray for him, be there for him. Just, kind of give me at least a little bit of the blueprint. Not that there is an actual blueprint, right, but, a little bit of guideline as to, something to try to help. And so now here I am, and it's my turn. I feel sometimes I battle within because I feel like I don't want to say I feel empty because I have a loving family that loves me and I love them. And I'm grateful for the gift of having my husband and my children. I can't thank God enough for.
But none of us are your dad.
Even with this show today, I'm watching the show come on and I'm seeing all the pictures of my dad at our wedding. Mm-hmm. It's hard because we're not a family that talks every day, not even every month, but we do talk on the holidays. And I felt like I keep going to the mailbox looking for Christmas cards from my dad, and I never realized the mailbox could be such a hollow, dark place until you just like, okay, I know we get, regular mail, but at Christmas, you're looking for that Christmas card from that. person or that person's voice. Somebody on Facebook said a powerful thing last night and was like, I know this sounds weird and then not everybody will get it, but do you have anybody on your voicemail that has passed away that you just go back and listen? And I was like, wow. My dad was never a leave the voice message type guy, but I would have loved to have had him on a voicemail message.
I got news for you. Up until, well, I say up until, but I might still have it. For a long time, I kept my mom's number on my phone.
I still have your mom's number on my phone.
Yeah, I never erased it.
I have, my whole phone is full of random different people that are no longer here. I'm sure I still got Brian's number in my phone.
Yep, I still have her number. I still have her cell and her home number on my phone. Mm-hmm. I've had it on there for 15 years.
Yeah. And
I just never erased it. I don't know why. There's no reason to keep it, obviously, but I don't know. I think, first of all, nothing you've said here is out of the ordinary. Even though I know it feels like it. Yeah, Chad saying the same thing. His voicemail, his mom's voice. Still have the number. Yeah. Nothing is out of ordinary. I think it's the way it is. It's just no way. There's no way to replace that. And so I get what you're saying and I get what you're feeling, because the reality of it is that what you're feeling and what you're saying is at the foundation and at the core of grief is what we're talking about. So how do you survive it? I think in year one, I would caution anybody in year one to do anything more than just survive it. Because
what does that mean?
Well, I think don't try to create some kind of, like I've heard people say, well, I'm gonna go on vacation and just try to have a vacation. Okay, but that doesn't take it away. That doesn't do anything. You're just distracting yourself from feeling. And I don't know if you're not supposed to feel in the beginning. I think the longer you hinder grief from doing what grief does to help you, the harder it is to allow grief to help you. So last year, when you just laid in the bed and you had your crying spells and you would cry a little bit and then you'd not cry, and you cry a little bit, that was good for you. That was so good for you because you're feeling it and you're experiencing it and you're allowing your mind and your body and your spirit to heal. So you're allowing that grief to flush you out and to make you feel, get you to a better place. You're never going to forget, but you can start to get to a better place. When you try to, I'm going to go sit on the island. Well, unless you're going to go sit on that island and truly process your feelings, you're not helping yourself. But if you're going to go to that island and distract yourself with some Mai Tais and margaritas and we're going to dance, we do that and the other, all you're doing is delaying the inevitable. Because guess what? At some point, you got to come back to your reality, and that reality has not changed just because you went on vacation. So I think you've handled this extremely well, to be honest with you, in surviving. This is the first year of the loss. Last year was the first year of the loss. So now you got to survive. Now in year two, you start to build, I think, a new normal. And you're starting to see that in what you just said. You go to the mailbox and you realize that thing's not coming. You look at your phone and you realize that call's not coming. And so you start to build that new reality. Like, you know what? I'll give myself as an example. I made a massive mistake my mom's first year for Christmas. Massive. You remember?
What do you mean you made a mess?
I recorded my first album.
Oh.
Right after my mom's death. And I threw everything into it.
Yeah, you did.
And I plowed through Thanksgiving for prepping for that album. And I plowed through Christmas prepping for that album because the concert was on New Year's Eve. And so I plowed through both those holidays, did not look back. We're going to do this and we're going to do this and blah, 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 blah. And I wasn't at home. I was with, the band and with the choir, and they were with me. And God bless them for rolling with me through the whole experience, because that was crazy. But they was like, okay. And we did the concert on New Year's Eve, and it was great. But I remember, I will never forget walking off that stage after it was over, after everybody's celebrating you and you did this and you did that, and it was great. I can't wait to buy your album, blah, 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 blah. And I'm walking off the stage, and I walk to the back room where we had our little holding area and dressing room, and it was a hospitality area, whatever. And I remember passing out in the hallway in tears, just falling on the floor. And everybody's rushing over to me. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? And it was the moment was so overwhelming because I wasn't grieving. I was just finding ways to stay busy and not think about it, not experience it, not allow grief to help me. And so it was just a disaster. But nobody told me. I didn't know. So I was just trying to do what I could to survive it. And I got through it, but not well. You did it well. Sometimes laying in bed and crying those tears is the perfect medicine for healing.
I don't know that I've done a good job.
You've done an amazing job.
I think I've just, sometimes I feel like it's just functional depression or something.
I wouldn't call it that. I would say you're functional, but I wouldn't call it depression. I just think you're in the grieving process, and it is a process. I don't think people understand grieving takes time. And there really aren't any shortcuts, though we often try to make shortcuts. Well, I just won't do that. I'll do this. I'll stay busy. I'll stay that. What I've noticed is that grief is coming, whether you want it to or not. And it's going to come out in some way, form, or fashion. Either it's going to come out in anger, or it's going to come out in frustration, or it's going to come out in bad decision making, or it's going to come out in
wow, what you say right there?
What do you mean?
I'm just wondering. So there are people that, excuse me, that the way that they handle grief is to make a bad decision.
Oftentimes, you end up making some of your worst decisions in grief.
Unpack at least one.
I give you one right off the top of my head. The one that popped in my head, and this is not a knock on him, but it's just the reality. I think Kevin Hart's stretch where he was, sleeping around after his mom passed, because he was married.
Oh. Okay.
And then his mom passed, or he was engaged and his mom passed. And when he did that, some of the decisions that came after that, I think, were grief related, because you're trying to stay busy. Okay. You're trying not to think about what has happened.
Okay.
You're trying not to have to process what happened. You say, well, I got to keep going. I can't stay in this. Well, it's not about staying in it. It's about reconciling it. And a lot of times we don't reconcile grief. And reconcile just simply means to allow yourself to feel. Kanye West is the greatest example, Selena. Kanye West is the great. Thank you for reminding me of that. That's the greatest example. Kanye West, because of not having the right people around you. And because you are a genius in some areas, that genius has taken over his ability to process. And it is his genius is fed into his trauma. So now I don't have time to really look at and evaluate what is taking place in my life, the new normal. I'm too busy moving forward in the new created reality for myself. Instead of dealing with reality, I'm creating a reality. So now in my new reality where my mom's not there, I'm focusing in on being great with this craft. So every day I'm great with this craft, I don't have to think about my pain. Every day I'm great with this music, I don't have to think about my pain. Every day I'm on a tour, but at the same time, inside I'm miserable. So go listen. You know the irony of this. Thank you again for Kanye. That is the perfect example. Listen to Kanye's music pre-mom's passing, and listen to the tonality of his music after his mom passed, and you can hear it sonically. You can hear it. Man, Gold Digger is a happy record. It's a fun record. Through the Wire, fun record. Jesus Walks, fun record. These are upbeat, encouraging. You know, its subject matter is eclectic and thought-provoking, this, that, and the other. Some of the other stuff is angry and it's hurtful and it's pain-filled. And that's because that's the outlet. Instead of using grief and processing to deal with it, you're using the music as the outlet.
So how does well, I'm over asking you the question.
Ask me.
I go back to what I was talking about earlier about how we can help one another. Because sometimes as a married couple, you're lost in day-to-day operations, if that makes sense. Your domestic things you have going on in your marriage, your spouse has lost their parent, and
how do I help? Oh, how do we help each other?
Yeah, because I'm saying I feel like sometimes there are a lot of spouses that are in this position or have experiencing this even now, and there is a wedge in between them because the other one is just functioning being mom or functioning being dad or just functioning and not realizing that your spouse is dealing with some stuff and they don't know that. I don't know.
No, you're making perfect sense. So let me say this. I don't know if I've done a good job with you during this process. I hope that I have. Trying to help you navigate these waters. But I think the thing that I've tried to do with you, that I learned from my own experience, is that I've tried to be present without being smothering or without not allowing you to be in the reality. I've tried to just be present and to let you guide my actions. So when you are in tears and you need to be held and encouraged, I try to pull you close, and I try to, pull you close. And I try to encourage you with honest encouragement. Like, you've never heard me say, oh, he's in a better place. Oh, he's in it. I don't do that. What I try to say is he was a great man. He lived a great life, and he loved you tremendously. And what I learned from my own experience is that the process of grief sometimes produces guilt. And so one of the tricks of the enemy is to create a guilt of activity. So either you guilt yourself into you not having done enough for that parent,
Okay.
or that parent becomes guilty of not having done enough for you. And so the narrative shifts as to who they were, and or the narrative shifts as to who you were to them. I could have done more for my daddy. Why didn't I spend more time with him? Why didn't I? Okay.
Yeah.
You can't. And the reality of it is that at this moment in history, at this moment in your process, that can't be a part of the narrative, right? It can't be, because there's nothing you can do about what you didn't do, and there's nothing you can do about what they didn't do. So what you have to do is stay present in the assessment of who they were. And that's how, to me, what I've learned is that you're able to process the moment, because so I don't focus on what he didn't do. I don't focus on what you didn't do. What I say to you is, this is who your dad was. He was a great man, and he loved you to the best of his ability. It wasn't perfect, but it was as good as he felt like he could give. And for that, I will always honor him. Remember, if you remember maybe you remember some of the words, maybe not. Some of the words aren't necessarily for your conscious mind. Sometimes I'm not even speaking to your conscious mind. I'm speaking to your subconscious, because I know your subconscious is going to speak to your conscious mind later. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to connect to that place in you that is real and that is honest toward what is really taking place. So it's that balance between that and also sometimes allowing you the space to feel it, because the tears are important. I know, oh, I'm so sick of crying. I get it. But the tears are helping you, because they're allowing you to remove the physical stress and the emotional stress and the psychological stress of the loss. So you need the tears. You need to sometimes in the early stages. Now, if this is going on 3 or 4 years in, then we got a problem. But in that first year, you need all of that, because it's helping you to heal. So I didn't bother you last Christmas. I let you lay in that bed and feel, because that's what you needed. And then when you wanted to get up, you got up and you said, hey, I want to eat. Cool, let's eat. Let's sit. We watched movies, but it was a very somber Christmas. And it needed to be.
I do remember that Christmas movie that was supposed to be the Christmas movie for the family we were supposed to enjoy.
Yeah.
But that moment with the father just.
Yeah, it was overwhelming.
Just took me to a place. And see, my dad has never been a voicemail person. He's never been one to write letters because of his line of work. So not like he's trying to keep a paper trail or anything like that. So that's the part is, I feel like if I had something, but then on the other hand,
what do you mean have something?
I mean,
Chad, I see your comment. I'm gonna comment on that in a minute. Go ahead.
I think with Christmas and my birthday being with 5 days within each other makes it even more challenging, because I'm used to hearing him say happy birthday and him saying how you doing, and I say I say I'm doing well. He said, well, it beats the alternative. He always say, well, it beats the alternative. At least you're spending your life above ground or whatever. And I'll be like, dang. So morbid.
But not really morbid, because you got to remember where he comes from. He comes from war. So when you come from war, being here does beat the alternative, because that's what you've seen. He's literally seen people die in front of him or be killed in front of him. So I get the sentiment for sure. It sounds hardcore out of context, but when you put it in context of his life, the statement makes perfect sense. And that's kind of where I think the processing of all of this has to go, because he was the man who he was because of the life that he led. And I know that seems very simplistic in thought, but the reality of it is that's true. We are the people that we are because of the life that we led. And that life unfolds in a way that produces who we are. And so whether that's good, whether that's bad, whether that's dynamic, whether that is impactful to us or hurtful to us, we are the sum total of those events. And so you have to believe, with the knowledge that person possessed, they did the best they could. And it was interesting about this conversation and what we're talking about here, about your dad in particular. The way you see your dad, I've never seen him that way. I don't know that guy. I don't know the guy that illuminates some of those harder things for you to process in your spirit and in your life. I don't know him.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I can't connect to that. When you hear, the only thing I've ever known about your dad is that every time you needed him, he was there. In the 22 years of our marriage, going on 23, he's never not been there for advice, for assistance, for an ear to bend. He's come down and visited his grandkids, which is more than the other grandparents have done. I mean, he has been great. So I don't know this other guy that you're talking about. And so when I tell you,
You said this other guy. What?
Well, the guy that you say, well, my dad didn't do this and my dad didn't do that.
Oh,
and he
okay.
may not have done those things in your lifetime. But in my lifetime of knowing him, I don't know if he could have played it better than he did.
I think that some of what I struggle with is that I feel like being fathered by him entailed more than just, those moments after I became married. I mean, and I'm thinking of a lot of the things that you guys talk about when all the guys get together, whether it be Uncorked Wine or on Talking NOIZ, the show. I feel like a lot of that type of wisdom and stuff, I didn't receive that. And I feel like that sometimes attributed to a lot of my being so naive, or being so gullible, or even passive, if you will, because I feel like a lot of that strong wisdom, my dad was an incredible, mighty, highly educated, highly decorated, and all those great things. But I feel like the basic stuff, the fathering, and I learned that from you, where there is a difference between a daddy and a father. And I needed him to father me. I needed him to help me to okay, Kenyatta, you don't want a man XYZ. You want wah. And that type of wisdom would have helped me. I wrote him a legal size sheet letter. And I told him a lot of the decisions I made in my life, I might not have made had I had him fathering me instead of being the voice on the other end of the phone that just from time to time, no wisdom, just, okay, Kenyatta, okay, but see, and I just think that you can only do so much over the phone. And then when I felt like I was in his presence, it felt like I was trying to do double time, because I was like, I want to make up for it. I just want to hug you. I just want to be close to you. And my father being, who he is in the military, it was like, in other words, no emotion, poker face at all times, and just, the lack thereof that.
So I will answer what you just said in this way. And it actually answers Chad's question as well. Because he said, I don't think I was there for both of them in this situation with his mom, because his mom got sick right when he had his first child, and it was kind of a weird dynamic. And so he didn't feel like he hit both. And I'll say this to both of you in regards to that. Because I think it applies to both of you. That dynamic that you're referring to was a dynamic that neither of you had control over. So to hold on, and by neither, I don't mean just you and Chad. I'm talking about all three of you, your dad, Chad. I mean, there were so many other factors. Do you feel the deficiency? Absolutely. Of course you do. You feel it. You feel what you feel like you didn't do, Chad, whatever the case may be. But here's the reality. With a 24-hour day that you sleep 8 hours of, you really have a 16-hour day. And you only can jam so much into that day. And that day is filled with possibilities. That day is filled with choices. That day is filled with problems. That day is filled with situations. That day is filled with circumstances. That day is filled with tragedy. That day is filled with all types of things. So sometimes we miss the levels of nuance that surround and the intricacies that surround our days and nights that keep us from being the people that we want to become. There are so many things that I want to do that, see, Jay, I heard Jay say this and I agree with him and I feel it. People look at me and say, man, you're a really good father. Man, in my mind, there's so much more that I want to do that I haven't done, that I feel like I could do better. You know what I mean? There's so much, but I'm trying to be that great father or be that whatever I'm supposed to be in the midst of all of the other stuff that's unfolding. So it looks like it should be simple. I should dedicate my focus to this one thing, but that's not how, but the reality is that's not how life works. I don't get to just focus on that one thing, that one thing that is important to me. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you were priority to him. But because of the circumstances being what they were, he lived in Alabama, you lived in Kentucky, you lived, and other factors that played into it, it did make it challenging to meet the level of the things that were coming at him in addition to. So it appeared that you were the afterthought. You got a newborn, but my mom is sick. And it appears she's that, but you're not. That's not how it works. Life is unfolding. And a lot of times we're reacting to the unfolding in addition to trying to prepare. And it's difficult when our preparation is in direct conflict with our reaction. Because I'm having to react, but I'm trying to prepare. I'm having to react, but I'm trying to prepare. So it's that weird dichotomy that makes it challenging for us to resolve. So what the trap is in the midst of guilt is to look back on the decisions and say, man, I didn't do it right. No, that's not true. That is not true that you didn't do it right. You did what the moment required. Just like he did what the moment required. It had, and it was going to have an outcome that may or may not be favorable to everybody connected to him. but it doesn't mean it was the wrong decision. Now, having said all of that loveliness, it brings me back to the thing that I said. You see it that way. All I see is a dude that there are times where I watch you need him and you pick up that phone and he say, Kenyatta, I got you. Go do this. Go do that. Lloyd, I was thinking about you. Do this, do that, do that. There was never a time I called your dad. And I didn't call him a lot. But the times that I did call him, he didn't give me the right answer, the right decision, in the right direction. Not one time. So in a way, he made up for, or he was trying to make up for all of the bad moments by, he said, I missed that first half, but I'm not going to miss the second half. So it's a tricky thing. And I think the trick of guilt and the trick of grief is how you process the person. My mom made a lot of mistakes, but do I focus on what she didn't do, or do I focus on who she really was at the core of all those mistakes? And I've learned to focus on who she was, because who she was brings peace. Now, who she was also has to be done in an honest way. She was this, she had that issue, but never try to hurt me in having those issues. So anyway, I want to read what David said as well. I think everyone should incorporate some type of processing a little bit about when the end comes in everyday life. So when the end comes, you're somewhat ready. I think it's important to talk about the end of the journey in everyday life. It's reality where we're just so concerned with the now. As we get older, we should prepare our kids. Why are people so scared to talk about death to their children, to them understand now that the someday I will no longer be here. Sorry for making this lengthy. No, I know you made it lengthy, Dave and Buff, and I appreciate you apologizing, but forget that. That was amazing. Because you're right. We don't talk about to our kids about it. We don't want to talk about to our kids about it.
Well, I'll be honest. I reached out many a time and asked my dad, because I knew he was so far away, and I knew I would just ask him. I said, I think one time at church, there was a lawyer that came. He was a preacher and he was a lawyer at the same time. And he was saying, that culturally, we don't like to talk about death. And I remember mentioning it to my mom, and my mom is still in the land of the living, thank God. But she was like, why are you trying to rush me into the ground? I'm like, what in the world? That's not it at all. I just wanted to know, do you have a plan? Do you have life insurance? Is there a way? Is there things that you want done whenever that time comes? I just wanted to know. It wasn't that I'm trying to say, count the, whatever. I don't know what that is. And then when I asked my father, he was responding the same way. I said, what is going on? So I don't know if this is cultural or what, but when you try to talk to our people about death or whenever that happens or whatever, folks just go left.
Some of it's cultural. Some of it is our own fear and inadequacies manifesting out. And so we feel woefully inadequate, and we don't and feel like we have not accomplished the thing we want to accomplish. So we want to feel like we have time.
I disagree.
And we don't want to accelerate that time.
I disagree, because your grandmother is not the same. Your grandmother is not the same way as what I just said with my parents. She like, okay, look, right here, I get all this information right here. But I just want you to know, so in case that happens, this is what you need to know. There's nothing to guess.
Yeah, but you're seeing this alliteration. I don't know. Maybe she's been that way all her life. I don't know. But
I think she has.
Maybe. I don't know. But I'll say this. It's she still don't want to sit up and talk about her own death, though.
No, but at least if you ask the question, I don't think she says, I don't want to talk about blah, 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 blah. And then shut you down, and then you never know. You don't even have an idea.
Right.
she like, you know what? I'm gonna tell you something about your grandmother. You know, first of all, shout out to your grandmother, 97 years old. I mean, blessed beyond measure. But I have always known, when I saw her still driving, when she was still driving,
we first got together,
and she had a sign that lays on the floor of the back window that had her name, her phone number. Now, I don't know if you want to give all this information out now, but I'm saying had all her information. And it said, in the event of an emergency. I was like, wow, that is great information. That if somebody is not cognitive or alert or whatever, and you say, I don't know anything about this person. You may search their purse or whatever and say, do they have a license? But she's like, in case that ever happens, here's all my information. I was like, man, that is amazing. So to know that she's that type of person that says, you know, God forbid, but whenever God says so, here's all the information so that you ain't got to wonder.
And while you're right, she is that type of person, that doesn't necessarily help you in the processing.
No, it doesn't help that part.
And that was the point.
Not that part, but I'm just saying it just in the process of what what's his name, David was talking about in regard to us not talking about it and things like that.
Yes, Dion, you're 1,000% correct. He said he lost his grandmother in February. A wonderful, beautiful woman that I happen to know. Cried and grieved for her as the months went by. I thought I was doing fine. Then November came, which is her birthday month, and holidays came up. The pain of losing her came back. But it eased the pain is thinking of all the great memories I have with her. And the more I think about her, it feels like she's still here. And Dion, you're still in that year one. So you're 1,000% correct. I have termed, and I think even clinically they say this often as well, but year one is being able to be able to navigate the waves, because grief comes in waves. And waves is the greatest example, because if you've ever been to an ocean, specifically the ocean, or even a wave pool, the waves come in such force that they knock you off your feet. And you're trying to find yourself, and you're trying to get your footing again, and you're trying to get your breath, because it's coming at you and it's in your face, and you're like, oh man, I can't breathe. I'm overwhelmed. I'm there, so that's how it happens at first. But as longer you stay in the water, you start to figure out, first of all, you start to see the waves. And you go, oh, here comes a wave. So then they teach you how to jump into the wave or how to ride the wave. And that's what grief teaches you, how to navigate and ride the wave. It's not to say that the waves aren't coming. It's just that you know how to prepare better for them. So that's what this first year is. You're going to feel that in the holidays. You're going to feel that at her birthday. Dion, I'll prepare you right now. Mother's Day is going to suck badly, because you're going to think about your grandmother and the things you used to do for her for Mother's Day. It's going to be horrible. May have been horrible this year for you already. So it's a part of it, but you learn to ride it and to endure it, and you find strategies to get through it and to get through the experience. And that's what you're doing now. So this second year is about that. Now we got to start putting the pieces together to help you get through the days, get through the holidays, get through the pain, and try to. What I've tried to do this last few years is to turn the holidays into more joyous memory moments of her, as opposed to. I don't even think I've told you this, but I'll tell you. I'm gonna share a secret with you right now in front of all the noise makers. One of the reasons why I wanted to shift what we ate for Christmas is because I wanted to memorialize my mom by cooking things that she would have cooked. So like, I'll make her lasagna. and that makes her feel like she's here. Or I'll make her breakfast, and that feels like she's here because she made breakfast all the time. And sometimes she make breakfast for dinner. I would barbecue or grill, and that feels like she's here. Here this year, my thing to make her feel like she's here was cooking shish kebabs. So every time I'm feeling that sense of loss.
Your mom cooked shish kebabs?
Oh, she was amazing cooking shish kebabs. Although I'm better at it than she is.
Wow.
That's the one thing. I can't say I'm better at a lot of things she cooked, but I am better. My shish kebabs are better than her shish kebab. Now, she's probably in heaven, like rolling her neck at me right now. But mom, wherever I know you up there showing out, but I'm better at it than you are. I cook a better shish kebab than you do.
Okay.
Because I've figured out all of the technique. I've used the techniques that she taught me, and I built on those. But that's the way it's supposed to be. The child should be better. The child should. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but it makes me feel connected to her. To not.
I will.
Yeah.
I don't know if you don't know because we watch two different TVs. You got your favorite stuff downstairs, and I got my favorite stuff. I have favorite stuff up here as well, and I think that a lot of the military shows that I watch
is to connect to them. Last year during Christmas, you watched NCIS, and there was another one that you watched all day.
Well, I watched NCIS all 19 seasons. Now, I can't say that about
19 seasons.
It is 19 seasons.
It's 19 seasons of NCIS.
Yeah, remember because I said the last season I had to buy on Amazon, and I said I wanted to let you know that I about making the purchase of the last season so I could understand how it ends. But I've never sat through no 19 seasons of nothing.
But when you came to me and said I need this, I didn't have an issue with it because I knew why you were saying it, and it was a way to understand your father, and hopefully it has helped.
I only struggle like this week. Sometimes at the end of each show, a military person dies.
Yeah.
And they show the whole funeral, and I didn't get to attend the funeral. Right,
because of COVID.
So I feel a way about it each time. I got to see the video, so it was streaming.
Right.
But God knows, because I don't know if I'd have been able to handle.
Well, I say COVID, but it was COVID plus the death of my father that kept us.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't just it wasn't just COVID. Actually, it was COVID and the death of my father the very next day.
And COVID, we don't really discuss it a lot, but COVID affected funerals.
Oh yeah, it was bad. Yeah,
the whole funeral industry had to pivot and start having because we weren't having streaming funerals until the pandemic.
Right.
But then they also had where they were doing COVID protocol where, okay, if we did have it in the building, we're only having a certain amount of people. We're not having a lot of chairs. We're not doing this and that. And so it just ended up being a challenge. And I just feel like I know myself enough to know, I don't know if I'd have been able to handle. It took a lot for me to go with you, with your dad, because because it was all outside.
Right.
And my dad's wasn't, it wasn't outside until after, it was, the service was inside, but then after, all that stuff was outside on one of those pavilions or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I'd have been able to handle.
Well, listen, I the circumstances were weird, but they were what they were supposed to be, and God knew what you could handle. There's no reason to feel guilty about any of it because it unfolded the way that it was supposed to unfold.
I just wish, I'm sure everybody can attest to that. you and everybody. I just wish we would have had that conversation like David Mitchell was saying. I wish we would have talked and said, okay, Kenyatta, in the event of my death, the following things. I would have appreciated that. And not that it would have taken away the pain, but it would have helped.
Well,
it would have helped knowing that he said, oh, Kenyatta, I've got pictures, I don't know. I just feel like, because sometimes we have this, and I'm just going to call it stupid, this stupid mindset of thinking that everybody's after money, saying that, you want me to die so you can inherit some money. It's not even about that, dude. I mean, some of us just want a piece of you, something of yours that we can keep. But you
have stuff of his that you can share. You have
memories,
not just memories, but I mean, you got your cookbooks, you got other stuff that he's giving you. We still got the rocking chair he gave us our first year of marriage. You have a lot of stuff. What you don't have is a closure.
Is him.
Right, a him. And a closure to where you can say, I've laid him to rest. And what the grief process, what you have to get to that place of doing is finding a way to truly lay him to rest and have peace. And you're still going through it. So it takes time. I get it. But you got to find it, because you're never going to have peace until you do. And he deserves it. He deserves to be laid to rest in your heart, because I'm telling you, you had a good dad. You had a good father. So I know we could keep this going forever, but we can't. But I hope somebody who watched this today has been helped by it. Because it's hard. It is hard. Yes, thank you, Irma. It is hard. It's very hard. I won't listen. Let's not kid ourselves. Our nation and our world has been going through probably one of the most challenging times of grief that it has ever encountered, due to COVID and all of the things that have been taking place and unfolding this last 2 years. There are people who have left this earth far sooner than any of us expected them to leave. But here's what we have to do. We have to find the ability to move forward and to process the truth and the love all at the same time. And it's not easy, but it is necessary. And we got to push through. So I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to close with this. You've done an outstanding job of processing, far greater than you give yourself credit for. It's not easy. There is no secret elixir that takes it all away. There's going to be woulda, coulda, shouldas. There's going to be, I wish I had, I wish I'd have done, I wish I'd have. There's going to be part of that. That's part of the process. But at the end of the day, I want you to continue to find that place where you know you did everything you could to be the greatest daughter that he could have ever wanted. And he did everything he could to be the greatest father that you could have ever needed. And that takes time, but you're going to get there.
Call me broken-hearted. You should have believed.